In Atlanta, Georgia, autumn had arrived with its typical vibrant color palette, but the season seemed somehow more subdued for William Harris. At 80 years old, William had spent most of his life with his wife Susan, and now, after her death, he found himself immersed in a loneliness that seemed to grow heavier with each passing day. William sat in his wheelchair next to the window in the living room, watching the sunlight filter through the red and golden leaves outside. The room was quiet except for the faint murmur of the television, which was showing a news program he rarely paid attention to. The environment seemed to reflect his internal state, disordered, yet with an attempt to maintain some level of normalcy. Linda Johnson, the housekeeper who cared for the house and for William, entered the room with a basket of clean clothes. Linda, a 30-year-old woman with a strong and warm presence, had dedicated her time to help William since Susan had passed away. Her kindness and patience were evident in every gesture, and William valued her company more than she could imagine. "Good morning, Mr. Harris," Linda said, placing the basket on the floor next to William and starting to fold the clothes. "How are you feeling today?" William turned his gaze from the window and looked at Linda with a sad smile. "Good morning, Linda. I'm managing. Autumn always reminds me of better times. Susan used to love this time of year." Linda paused for a moment and looked at William with understanding. "I know. I always see you looking out the window and think about how difficult it must be." "It's harder than I imagined," William admitted, his voice carrying a deep sorrow. "It's not just her absence, but the silence. I used to wait for her to come into the room and tell me about her day. Now, the silence is almost deafening." Linda continued folding the clothes, her gaze focused on the task but her mind on the conversation. "Loneliness can be really tough. If you need anything, someone to talk to, or just company, I'm here." "Thank you, Linda," William said, his tone softening a bit. "I really appreciate that. Sometimes I feel like I'm sinking into my own thoughts." Linda looked at William and, after a brief moment of hesitation, said, "If you'd like, I can make you some tea. It might help warm your heart a bit." William smiled, the gesture a rare glimmer of light on his face. "That would be wonderful. Thank you, Linda." As Linda went to the kitchen, William closed his eyes for a moment, trying to focus on the comforting sensation of the conversation. The memories of Susan were always so vivid, and the pain of her absence seemed endless. However, Linda's presence offered a form of solace that he couldn't quite explain. Linda returned with a steaming cup of tea and handed it to William. "Here you go. I hope this helps a little." William took the cup with trembling hands and took a small sip. "It's perfect. You know, Linda, I never imagined I'd become so attached to someone like I have to you over these past months." Linda smiled, a bit embarrassed. "I've learned a lot from you, too. It's funny how people can connect even when there's such a difference between them." "Difference?" William frowned, puzzled. "What do you mean by that?" Linda sighed and looked out the window, where the leaves continued to dance with the breeze. "Well, there's always a certain prejudice and challenges when people from different generations and backgrounds meet. But over time, differences become less important than what we really feel for each other." William reflected on her words and the complexity they implied. He knew life was full of challenges, and perhaps the most significant one was understanding and accepting what truly mattered in a human relationship. "You're right, Linda. Sometimes, friendship and companionship can overcome even the greatest barriers." Their conversation continued for a while, and although the weight of Susan's absence was still present, there was something comforting in the connection forming between William and Linda. As the sun continued to shine through the window, both of their lives were about to change in ways neither of them could predict. Night fell over Atlanta with a tranquil softness. The city was cloaked in a mix of urban lights and nighttime shadows, and William Harris's house reflected this transition subtly. The living room, where William spent most of his time, was now lit only by table lamps and the soft glow of the crackling fireplace. William sat in his wheelchair, flipping through an old photo album. His hands trembled slightly as he turned the pages, his eyes lost in images of happier times. Linda's presence in the room had become increasingly constant and comforting, and that evening she was tidying up some papers and organizing William's library. "Do you remember our wedding?" William suddenly asked, without looking up from the photos. Linda, who was putting books back on the shelf, looked up with curiosity. "I've never seen your wedding, Mr. Harris. I've only heard about how special it was." William smiled, a little sadly. It was indeed. Susan was radiant. It was as if nothing else in the world mattered at that moment. It was just the two of us. Linda walked over to William's wheelchair and leaned in to look at the photos. "I can imagine. Sometimes, you just need to find someone with whom you connect that deeply. It sounds like that was very strong for you and Susan." William looked at Linda with a thoughtful expression. "And I wonder if it's possible to find something like that again. Something that makes the heart beat with the same intensity." Linda hesitated for a moment, touching William's shoulder reassuringly. "I'm not sure if it's easy to find something like that, but I believe that if it's what you want, you shouldn't give up looking." That night, as the house sank into peaceful darkness, William and Linda found themselves closer than before. Their conversation flowed naturally, and there was a growing familiarity that made the atmosphere more welcoming. "Linda," William began, looking at her with an expression of vulnerability, "I have a question for you." "Of course, Mr. Harris. Ask me anything." "I feel like there's something more between us," William said hesitantly. "A connection I can't quite explain. Have you ever felt that before?" Linda sat down next to him, considering the question carefully. "Sometimes, deep connections can form in unexpected ways. The truth is, I felt a strong friendship with you, something I didn't expect. It's possible that this could develop into something even more significant." William looked at her with a mixture of hope and fear. "Do you think there could be something more here, something we could explore together?" Linda took a deep breath, her voice soft. "I believe we can explore anything that makes us happy, as long as we respect each other's feelings." Their conversation was interrupted by a gentle knock at the door. It was the mail carrier, bringing a letter with a seal from a law office. William took the letter with a curious look and began to open the envelope. Linda watched attentively, noticing the expression of concern on his face. "It looks important," Linda commented. William pulled out the letter and read it carefully. "It's a notice about a meeting to discuss some of Susan's will. It seems there are some things that need to be resolved." Linda noticed the growing tension in William and tried to offer some comfort. "If you need help dealing with this, I'm here for whatever you need." William smiled gratefully. "Thank you, Linda. Your words always seem to bring a bit of relief." In the days that followed, Linda's constant presence and understanding helped William face the complexities of the legal and emotional issues that arose after Susan's death. They supported each other, and their connection continued to deepen, revealing a friendship that transcended age and life experiences. What had started as a caregiver-care-recipient relationship was evolving into something more complex and profound. The connection between William and Linda was becoming an essential part of their lives, offering hope and comfort amid the pain and change. They were beginning to realize that, amidst loss and sadness, there was a chance to find something new and meaningful together. Winter had begun to settle in Atlanta, bringing with it a cold air and a blanket of fog that covered the city. Inside William Harris's home, the atmosphere was warm and welcoming, in contrast to the external climate. The fireplace burned softly, casting a warm glow throughout the room. William sat in his wheelchair by the fireplace, trying to warm himself with a blanket. Linda, as always, was nearby, sorting through some papers and handling the daily tasks. There was something different in the air that night, an almost palpable tension that William couldn't fully explain. "Linda," William called, his voice carrying a mix of nervousness and determination. Linda approached, sensing the seriousness in his tone. "Yes, Mr. Harris? What can I do for you?" William took a deep breath, trying to find the right words. "I've been thinking a lot about us, about what we feel for each other." Linda frowned, her look concerned. "About us?" William nodded, his expression serious. "Yes. The truth is, since Susan passed away, you've been such a constant and comforting presence. And I feel something deeper, something I can't ignore." Linda sat down in the chair next to William, her heart racing with anticipation. "What are you trying to say, Mr. Harris?" William hesitated, his hands trembling slightly. "Linda, you've been a source of light in my life, and I can't ignore that my feelings for you have grown far beyond mere friendship." I would like to spend the rest of my life with you. He paused, his eyes meeting. The start of the new year brought a chilly climate and a blanket of ice to Atlanta. William Harris's home was warm and cozy, but the unexpected proposal he had made to Linda Johnson created a tension that hung over them. News of the engagement had begun to spread, and reactions started to emerge. Linda was in the kitchen preparing dinner when an unexpected visitor arrived. William's sister, Margaret, a 70-year-old woman with a stern demeanor. Margaret was an imposing and traditional figure, and her gaze conveyed a mixture of surprise and disapproval. "Linda," Margaret said in a firm voice, "I'd like to speak with you if I may." Linda looked at Margaret with a forced smile, her heart racing. "Of course, Mrs. Harris. Please, come in. I'll make us some coffee." Margaret sat at the kitchen table while Linda prepared the coffee. "You must know that this situation isn't simple for our family. William is an older man, and you are much younger." Linda placed the coffee cups on the table and sat across from Margaret. "I understand that this may seem unusual. What I can say is that the feelings William and I have for each other are genuine." Margaret sighed, her gaze fixed on Linda. "It's not just about feelings. It's also about what society thinks and how it could impact our family. The age difference and the racial issues are sensitive subjects." Linda took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "I really care about Mr. Harris. He has shown me kindness and understanding that I've never found before. I'm not seeking complication or scandal. I'm seeking something real." Margaret didn't look completely convinced, but her expression softened slightly. "I just hope you know what you're getting into. It's not an easy situation, and there's a lot to consider. It's not just our family that will object. The community will have something to say as well." The next day brought more complications. Linda received a call from her mother, who also expressed concerns about the relationship. Her mother's reaction was filled with questions and doubts, reflecting the resistance Linda's family felt toward the marriage. "Linda," her mother's voice was heavy with worry on the other end of the line. "Do you really think this is the best for you? There's so much that could go wrong. What will others think?" Linda sighed, trying to stay calm. "Mom, I understand your concerns, but I need to make my own decisions. Mr. Harris has been a source of support and affection for me. I can't ignore how I feel." As conversations with friends and family continued, the social and familial resistance seemed to grow. The couple faced a series of challenges that went beyond personal issues, involving deeply ingrained expectations and prejudices. Despite the difficulties, William and Linda remained determined to face the obstacles together. They met frequently to discuss the situation and support each other. The tension in the house was palpable, but the strength of their connection became clearer each day. Amidst all the adversities, William's proposal was turning into a test of resilience and courage. What initially seemed like a simple declaration of love was becoming a monumental challenge that required a deep understanding and an unwavering willingness to fight for what they believed was true. Spring eventually arrived in Atlanta, bringing a new vitality to the city and a slight increase in temperature. William Harris's garden began to show signs of renewal, with flowers starting to bloom and trees gaining vibrant green leaves. Inside the house, William and Linda were immersed in their reflections and planning. One morning in early April, William was sitting at the breakfast table, leafing through an old notebook that Susan had kept. Linda entered the room, carrying a tray with coffee and some croissants, and noticed William's contemplative expression. "Good morning, Mr. Harris," Linda said, setting the tray on the table. "You seem deep in thought today." William looked up from the notebook and smiled at Linda, though with a tone of melancholy. "Good morning, Linda. Yes, I've been thinking a lot about the past. This notebook contains many notes and letters from Susan. It's like she's here, talking to me." Linda sat beside him and picked up a croissant, watching as William flipped through the notebook. "You and Susan had an amazing life together. It's understandable that you look at these memories with affection." William took a deep breath and pointed to a page in the notebook. "She used to write about the dreams and plans we had for the future. It's hard not to think about how those things have changed." Linda picked up the notebook and began reading some of the notes, their words reflecting a time of hope and love. "She had a beautiful dream for the two of you. I can see how much she loved the life you built together." William smiled sadly. "Yes, it was a dream full of promises. And now, seeing these words, I wonder how Susan would react to everything happening now. If she were here, what would she say about what I'm going through? Linda looked at William with a gentle expression. It's hard to know what someone would think in a situation like this, but what matters now is what you feel and what you want for the future. Susan is an important part of your past, but you also need to think about your future. Their conversation was interrupted by a phone call from Margaret, William's sister. She wanted to discuss family matters and the upcoming meeting with the attorney about Susan's will. William answered the phone, and Linda watched the conversation, feeling the growing tension. Margaret, yes, I understand your concern. We can discuss this later, William said on the phone, clearly weary from the conversation. Yes, I know we have a lot to consider. After hanging up, William turned to Linda. My sister is quite worried about the will meeting. She wants to make sure everything is in order and that things are handled carefully. Linda nodded, her expression understanding. I know this is weighing on you, but at the same time, you need to find a balance between what was and what is now. Your life doesn't have to be defined only by what was, but also by what it can become. William looked at Linda with gratitude. You're right, and that's why I'm thinking so much about the past and the future. It's not easy dealing with loss while trying to plan a new path. As they talked, William and Linda began to explore their feelings and hopes more deeply. They shared memories and dreams, and these conversations helped build a deeper understanding between them. One evening, after a long day of reflections and preparations, William and Linda were in the living room. William was sitting at the table, writing a letter to Margaret, trying to explain his feelings and the importance of his decision. Linda sat beside him, watching with a supportive look. You're doing the right thing, Linda said, seeing William's dedication. It's important that your sister understands what you're going through and why you're making these decisions. William finished the letter and placed it in an envelope. I just hope she understands and respects what I'm trying to do. It's hard to balance respect for the past with the need to move forward. Linda held William's hand, a silent gesture of support. Sometimes, the greatest challenge is finding the courage to move forward. And I believe you're doing that in the best way possible. Spring continued to unfold, bringing new beginnings and new hopes. William and Linda were finding a way to integrate the past into their present and to plan a future that respected both Susan's memories and the new feelings and dreams they were developing. The journey was far from easy, but the growing connection between them provided a light amid the shadows of transition. Spring was in full bloom, and William Harris's house seemed to glow with the soft sunlight and the scent of the flowers beginning to blossom in the garden. The tension that had hung over William and Linda seemed to have eased a bit, but the situation was far from resolved. The next important step would be the meeting with the attorney to discuss Susan's will and the impact of the decisions on William's family. William and Linda were preparing for the meeting, both trying to stay calm and focused. William had dressed in a dark suit, reflecting his intention to show respect for the situation. Linda, by his side, wore an elegant blue dress, her way of supporting William and showing seriousness about what was about to happen. Are you ready? William asked, his voice tinged with nervousness. Linda adjusted her dress and smiled at him. Yes, I am. And you? William nodded, trying to look more confident than he felt. I'm ready. I hope we can handle this as best as possible. They left the house and headed to the attorney's office, located in an elegant building in downtown Atlanta. The atmosphere in the waiting room was formal and impersonal, and William sat nervously while Linda tried to offer a bit of comfort by his side. After some time, they were called into the meeting room. The attorney, Ms. Ellen Carter, a middle-aged woman with a professional and calm demeanor, greeted them with a firm handshake. Mr. Harris, Ms. Johnson, please have a seat. Let's begin the review of the will, Ms. Carter said, opening a thick file on the table. William and Linda sat down, and Ms. Carter started explaining the will's clauses, pointing out the details and provisions left by Susan. As you know, Susan's will includes several provisions that need to be reviewed, Ms. Carter began. There are also some conditions that need to be discussed with the family. Margaret entered the room, accompanied by other family members, including cousins and close friends. The atmosphere in the room was tense, and Margaret immediately addressed William with a serious expression. William, are you sure you want to proceed with these decisions? Margaret asked, her voice filled with concern. I understand that you and Linda have a close relationship, but this could cause a lot of problems. William took a deep breath before responding. Margaret, I respect your concerns, but I also need to follow what I feel is right. What I'm doing is what Susan would have wanted for me, and it's what I want for the future as well. Linda tried to intervene, her voice calm and firm. I understand that this situation is complex and may cause discomfort, but Mr. Harris and I are trying to handle it as respectfully as possible. We're here to resolve this with as much clarity as we can. Ms. Carter then began reviewing the will, explaining that Susan had left specific instructions on how she wanted her assets distributed and how her final wishes should be honored. There were some donations to charities and, additionally, a clause mentioning that William should receive additional support if he chose to make major life changes. As part of the provisions, Susan left a letter explaining her wishes for William, should he decide to move forward and find new happiness. Ms. Carter read aloud. She expressed her love for him and her hope that he would find joy and fulfillment, regardless of the circumstances. Reading the letter brought tears to William's eyes. He looked at Linda, who was beside him, offering a supportive smile. I'm sorry for this, William, Margaret said, her voice softened by the emotion of hearing Susan's words. I can see that this was important to her. William wiped his tears and looked at Margaret. I just want to do what is right and honor Susan's memory. I believe that includes moving forward with my life and seeking the happiness she wanted for me. Margaret seemed to reflect on William's words and, finally, nodded with a more understanding look. I understand. And while this isn't easy for me, I respect your decision and want to help ensure that everything is done correctly. The meeting continued with practical discussions and final adjustments to the will's provisions. Although tensions were still present, there was significant progress in accepting William and Linda's decision. When the meeting ended, William and Linda left the office with a sense of relief mixed with the emotional weight they still carried. They knew the journey was far from over, but they had taken an important step in the right direction. Thank you for being by my side through this process, William said to Linda as they walked to the car. I don't know what I would have done without your support. Linda smiled, holding William's hand. We're in this together, and we'll find a way to face any challenges that come our way. We're starting a new chapter, and we'll face it with courage and love. Spring was in full bloom, and life was beginning to renew itself for William and Linda. They were ready to face the challenges and move forward, with the hope that despite the difficulties, the future could bring new opportunities and a happiness that would continue to honor the past and build a new tomorrow. The first days of May brought a gentle warmth to Atlanta, and the city was alive with spring flowers. Inside William Harris's home, the atmosphere was lighter, but a new challenge was approaching. It was time for William and Linda to face a crucial step in their journey, accepting William's children. William's children, Thomas and Rebecca, arrived at the house for an important meeting. Both were adults with their own families and commitments, and the news of the marriage proposal had generated concerns and discussions among them. The tension was palpable as William and Linda welcomed them at the door. Thomas, a man in his early 40s with a serious expression and a demeanor that reflected his worry, was the first to speak. Hello, Dad. Linda, he said with a nod. Thank you for having us. We need to talk about what's happening. Rebecca, slightly younger than Thomas and with a concerned look, also approached. Hi, Dad. Linda, I just want to make sure you know we're here to support you, but there are some things we need to clarify. William took a deep breath and tried to remain calm. I understand your concerns. I appreciate that you're here to talk. I think it's important for us to have an open conversation about all of this. Linda, sensing the tension, decided to start the conversation on a welcoming note. Thomas, Rebecca, we know this isn't an easy situation to handle, but what we're trying to do is find a way to move forward that's respectful and honest. Dad and I truly believe this could be a positive step for all of us. Thomas looked at Linda with a skeptical expression. I just don't understand how this is the best thing for you, Dad. Susan was such a big part of our lives. And now we're talking about you marrying again, with someone who's significantly younger and, on top of that, isn't part of our family. Rebecca tried to ease the situation. I understand that you're going through a tough time, Dad, and we want you to be happy. But it's hard not to worry about the implications of all this. And how does Linda fit into our family? William stood up and looked at his children with a determined expression. Susan was a huge part of my life, and I'll always love and remember her. However, I also need to recognize that I'm in a place where I feel I have the capacity to find new happiness. Linda has been a source of support and love, and that's what I'm seeking now. Linda moved closer to William, holding his hand. I understand this may be hard to accept, but my wish is to build something real and respectful. I want to be part of William's family and stand by him, not replace him. And I'm willing to work to find a place within our family. Rebecca looked at Linda, appearing a bit more receptive. I really appreciate your honesty, Linda. It's not easy for us, and I imagine it isn't for you either. What we need to know is that you truly care about our dad and are prepared to face the challenges this might bring. Thomas was still concerned, but his tone was somewhat softer. I just want to make sure that Dad isn't doing this on impulse, or just because he's lonely. He deserves someone who treats him well and is good company for him. William nodded. I understand your concerns, and that's why I'm here, open to answering any questions and discussing any issues you might have. I want you to see that what we're doing is an important step for our happiness and well-being. The conversation continued with a series of questions and answers, where William and Linda tried to explain their intentions and the importance of their relationship. It was a difficult dialogue, but a necessary one, and slowly, Thomas and Rebecca began to understand the situation better. After hours of conversation, the tension began to ease a bit. Rebecca, with a softer tone, said, I can see that you're trying to do what's best for both of you. And if this brings happiness to Dad, then maybe it's something we should support, even if it's difficult for us. Thomas, though still with a serious expression, added, I just hope this is what you really want and that you're ready to handle the challenges that will come. William smiled at his children, relieved to see a sign of acceptance, even if partial. Thank you for being willing to listen and discuss this. It means a lot to me that we can face this together. Linda, with a sincere smile, thanked them. I truly hope we can find a way to integrate our paths and build a new understanding. I'm here for whatever is needed and to be a positive part of this family. As the meeting came to an end, the mood in the house was a bit lighter. Accepting William's children was a crucial step for William and Linda's future, and although there were challenges ahead, there was also a new space for understanding and hope. They were beginning to find a way to bridge the past and the future, and with that, they were shaping a new chapter in their lives. The end of May brought pleasant weather to Atlanta, with mild temperatures and a gentle breeze sweeping through the city. William and Linda were optimistic after the meeting with William's children, but they knew the next step was to formally integrate Linda into William's family. They decided to organize a family gathering to bring everyone together and start building a new dynamic. The lunch was scheduled for a sunny Sunday, and William's house was transformed into a welcoming space. Linda had put effort into preparing a special menu, including dishes that had been Susan's favorites, as a way to honor her memory while trying to create a new tradition. Thomas and Rebecca arrived with their families, bringing their children and a few close friends. The atmosphere was one of anticipation and a bit of nervousness, but everyone was committed to making the gathering a success. Hi, Dad, Rebecca said, hugging William. Everything looks beautiful here. Linda, you did an amazing job with the decorations and the food. Linda smiled, a bit nervous but relieved to receive the compliment. Thank you, Rebecca. I hope everyone enjoys what I've prepared. I made it with a lot of care. Thomas came in with a more reserved demeanor but made an effort to be cordial. Good afternoon, Dad. Linda, the house looks really nice. William, trying to be the ideal host, responded with a warm smile. Thank you, Thomas. I'm glad you like it. Let's enjoy the food and spend some time together. I'm sure it will be a good day. As everyone settled at the outdoor table, conversations started to flow, and the atmosphere was filled with sounds of laughter and animated chatter. Linda was especially attentive, trying to engage in conversations and connect with each family member. During lunch, Linda decided to start a conversation about memories and family traditions, hoping to find common ground and establish a deeper connection. I was thinking, Linda began with a gentle smile, that maybe we could start new traditions while honoring the old ones. For example, I have some recipes I learned from my grandmother that I'd love to share with you. Maybe this could be something we do together in the future. Rebecca, visibly interested, responded, "That sounds like a great idea, Linda. I'd love to learn more about your traditions and recipes. It's always nice to add new perspectives to our family traditions." Thomas, still a bit skeptical, raised an eyebrow. "I'm open to new ideas, as long as we can find a balance between keeping what's important to our family and embracing these new traditions." The conversation continued, and throughout lunch, William and Linda managed to make Thomas and Rebecca's families feel more comfortable. The food was delicious, and despite some initial tensions, the atmosphere began to feel more relaxed. After lunch, as everyone sat in the sitting area for coffee and desserts, William decided to give a short speech to express his gratitude. "I'd like to thank everyone for being here today," William began, his voice filled with emotion. "This is an important moment for Linda and me, and the fact that you're willing to come together and support us means a lot. I know change isn't easy, but I'm hopeful that we can find a way to create new memories together." Linda stood up beside William and added, "I also want to express my gratitude. I'm looking forward to getting to know each of you better and finding ways to be a meaningful and respectful part of this family." The response was a mix of smiles and nods. Although the atmosphere was far from completely relaxed, there were clear signs of a positive step towards accepting Linda. As the day came to an end, the children played in the garden while the adults chatted and enjoyed a peaceful afternoon. William and Linda, watching the scene, felt a sense of relief and hope. Rebecca approached Linda with a genuine smile. "Linda, I really enjoyed spending time with you today. I'm starting to see how much you care about our dad and how much effort you're putting in to make this work." Linda smiled, her heart warmed by the acceptance. "Thank you, Rebecca. That means a lot to me. I hope we can continue to build a strong relationship and find ways to grow as a family." Thomas also approached, offering a more relaxed smile. "I know we still have a long way to go, but today was a good start. Thanks for making the effort and for being so open with all of us." William watched with a satisfied smile, feeling that the situation was beginning to improve, even if slowly. "Thank you all for coming and for being so open. It means a lot to Linda and me." As William and Linda headed home, they felt they were making progress, even if it was incremental. Adjusting to the new family dynamic was far from perfect, but each gathering and conversation was a step toward building a stronger and more united relationship. The journey was filled with challenges and adjustments, but with patience and understanding, William and Linda were beginning to find their way. And despite the difficulties, there was a growing sense of hope and optimism for the future. William and Linda's wedding day had finally arrived, and Atlanta was basking in sunshine and warmth. The city seemed to be celebrating with them, providing the perfect backdrop for such a special event. Despite the hurdles they had faced along the way, William and Linda were ready to take the next step in their new life together. On the morning of the wedding, William's house was bustling with activity. Linda was in the master bedroom, surrounded by her friends and Rebecca, who was helping her get ready. The excitement and anxiety were palpable, and Linda looked visibly nervous. "You look beautiful, Linda," Rebecca said, adjusting Linda's veil with an encouraging smile. "Everything is turning out perfectly. Don't worry about a thing." Linda smiled, grateful, though still looking apprehensive. "Thank you, Rebecca. I'm as excited as I am nervous. I just hope everything goes smoothly and that everyone feels comfortable." Meanwhile, William was at a friend's house, where he was getting ready with the help of Thomas and other friends. The atmosphere was more relaxed, but there was still a sense of anticipation in the air. "Are you ready for this, Dad?" Thomas asked, helping William adjust his tie. William smiled, though he looked nervous. "Ready or not, here we go. I'm really happy this day has come, but I also feel a lot of pressure for everything to go well." Thomas gave an encouraging smile. "I know this is important to you, and I'm here to support you. Let's hope the day goes as planned." As the afternoon approached, guests began to arrive at the ceremony venue, a beautiful garden overlooking a serene lake. The space was decorated with white and green flowers, creating an elegant and romantic atmosphere. The guests took their seats in rows, and the air was filled with anticipation. Linda made her grand entrance, walking down the garden aisle in a stunning wedding dress. William, waiting at the altar, couldn't hide his emotion as he saw her. When Linda reached the altar, William held her hand tenderly. The officiant, a close friend of the couple, began the ceremony with a touching speech about love and the importance of union. "Dear friends and family," the officiant began, "we are here today to celebrate the union of two very special people. William and Linda have found in each other a source of love and support, and it is with great joy that we are here to witness and support this new chapter in their lives." As the officiant spoke, William and Linda exchanged loving glances. The moment was marked by heartfelt vows, where both expressed their deepest feelings. "Linda," William began, his voice trembling with emotion, "from the moment I met you, you brought light and joy into my life. I promise to love you, respect you, and stand by your side through all moments, both good and bad." Linda, with tears in her eyes, responded, "William, you've shown me the true meaning of love and partnership. I promise to stand by you, supporting and loving you every step of the way." The moment culminated in a kiss that sealed their union, and the guests applauded and celebrated enthusiastically. The happiness on William and Linda's faces was evident, and their love seemed to touch everyone around them. After the ceremony, guests moved to the reception area, an elegant hall decorated with flowers and soft lighting. The ambience was filled with music and joy, with everyone enjoying dinner and animated conversations. During the reception, William gave a speech to thank those present. He began with an emotional smile and a look at Linda. "Dear friends and family," William began, "I want to thank all of you for being here today and for supporting us during this special time. Today, we begin a new chapter in our lives, and it wouldn't be possible without the love and support of each one of you." Linda, standing beside him, also took the floor. "I want to express my gratitude to everyone for welcoming me and making this day truly unforgettable. I'm looking forward to the future and to creating wonderful memories with all of you." Thomas and Rebecca, watching the scene, appeared more relaxed and happy to see their parents finally starting a new journey together. Thomas approached William and Linda during the reception, offering a genuine smile. "Dad, Linda, congratulations," Thomas said, shaking their hands. "I'm happy for you and for seeing the happiness you've found together. I hope this new chapter brings you everything you wish for." Rebecca, standing beside Thomas, also approached, offering a warm hug. "Yes, congratulations to both of you. I'm excited to continue building a relationship with you, Linda, and to be part of this new phase." Linda, moved, responded, "Thank you, Thomas and Rebecca. It means a lot to me that you're here and beginning to accept this new phase." The day was marked by moments of joy and celebration, with dancing, laughter, and many memories being created. William and Linda felt surrounded by love and support, and the future seemed promising. As the night progressed and guests began to say their goodbyes, William and Linda found themselves alone for a moment, gazing at the sparkling lights of the hall and the happy faces around them. "Can you believe we finally made it here?" William asked, holding Linda's hand. Linda smiled, her eyes shining with happiness. "Yes, it's been a long road, but it was worth it. I'm so happy to be here with you and to start this new journey." With one last look at the hall, William and Linda felt a deep sense of accomplishment and hope. The wedding day marked the beginning of a new chapter in their lives, and despite the challenges, they were ready to face everything together with love and commitment. As summer gave way to fall, the weather in Atlanta softened, and the trees' leaves shimmered in golden hues. For William and Linda, this season signified new beginnings and the chance to reflect on the time they had spent together so far. September brought a calmer rhythm to William and Linda's life, and they were beginning to settle into their new routine. After the summer's chaos and initial challenges, both were eager to focus on the future and embrace the opportunities for growth and happiness that lay ahead. It was a quiet, sunny Saturday, and William and Linda were out in the garden, where they had started a gardening project together. The garden was transforming into a welcoming space, with flowers and plants that reflected the care and effort they were both putting in. Linda was kneeling in the dirt, planting new flowers, while William approached with a bucket of water. "Look how nice it's turning out here," William commented, watching Linda's work. "I never thought I'd get so interested in gardening, but it's been really relaxing." Linda smiled, her hands dirty with soil, and wiped the sweat from her forehead. "I'm loving it too. It's a way for us to express our creativity and spend time together. And honestly, it's a great way to de-stress. As they continued working in the garden, William decided to bring up an important topic he had been thinking about. Linda, there's something I'd like to discuss with you. I've been thinking a lot about our life together and how we can continue to grow as a family. Linda, curious and attentive, looked up at him. What's on your mind? William took a deep breath before continuing. I'd like us to consider taking a trip together. Something that lets us escape our routine and explore new places. I think it could be an opportunity for us to connect even more and create new memories. Linda's face lit up with enthusiasm. That sounds wonderful. I'd love to go on a trip. Is there a specific place you have in mind? William thought for a moment and then replied, I've always wanted to visit the California coast. There's something about exploring the beaches and coastal landscapes that seems so appealing. Maybe we could do it next month when the weather is still pleasant. Linda agreed, clearly excited by the idea. I think that would be amazing. Let's start planning the details and make sure everything is ready for the trip. It could be a great way to celebrate our new life together. With the decision to travel set, the couple dedicated themselves to planning the trip in the following weeks. As they organized the details, they also took time to reflect on the challenges they had faced and how they had overcome them. One evening, while they were in the living room, William and Linda talked about the highs and lows of the past year. Do you remember how we felt at the beginning? William asked, with a reflective tone. It was such a turbulent time, and it seemed like everything was against us. Linda nodded, holding William's hand. Yes, I remember well. It was tough, but we also learned so much about each other. Those challenges just made us stronger and more united. William smiled and squeezed Linda's hand. I feel like we've reached a point where we're really building something special, and that gives me hope for the future. No matter what comes our way, I know we can face it together. Linda, with a loving look, replied, I feel that way too. Our relationship has grown and strengthened, and I'm looking forward to continuing this journey with you. Every day together is a new opportunity to learn and grow. As the night went on, the couple continued to talk and reflect on their experiences. The atmosphere was cozy and intimate, with the soft light from the lamps creating a tranquil setting. Planning the trip to the California coast gave William and Linda a new sense of anticipation and excitement. They were eager to escape their routine and explore new horizons, confident that the trip would further strengthen their connection. As fall progressed, William and Linda found themselves in a more balanced and optimistic place in their lives. They had overcome challenges and were ready to embrace the new experiences that life had to offer. With the future ahead and love as their guide, they were ready to write the next chapter of their journey together.